Well, hello there. Welcome in. Glad to have you. Whether you're listening on 740 KVOR, Extra Sports 1300, or whether you've downloaded the streaming apps of those two fine radio stations, which are both free to download, free to use, and sponsored by Diversus Health, Mental Health, and Well-Being for All. It will be a veritable cornucopia of sports topics over the course of the program, and I'd love to get your thoughts at 719-247-1313. You can call or text them in. Producer extraordinaire Ray Dominguez, who apparently does everything around here, just ask him, is standing by eagerly awaiting your correspondence. We'll talk about the baseball game. There's a baseball game going on at 20th and Blake. And it's going well for the home team. So, yeah, we're going to talk about it. It's the meme of Morty. GD, I'm in. I told you. But I do want to start with the Colorado Avalanche. And I've been thinking a lot. Maybe too much. In fact, it's one of probably my shortcomings is I do tend to dwell and think on things probably longer than I need to. These comments from Jared Bednar the other day about Scott Wedgwood have kind of stuck with me. And as I'm watching the Avs last night beat the St. Louis Blues 3-1, winning them the Central Division, I was thinking about these words. This was Jared Bednar the other day about Scott Wedgwood.
This season, though, the consistency in his game for the course of a full season has been it's fascinating, really, because you know what his career looks like, and he's back up, and then all of a sudden he comes in for us, and he's just doing an incredible job every time he gets in there. So super consistent, high level of hockey for him. I'm sure the longest and best stretch of his career, and it's sometimes it's just maturity, it's fit, it's players are always working to improve, and he hasn't stopped, and it's showing in his play.
It has been a remarkable story, Scott Wedgwood, and it came to mind a comparison that I recall, and probably you do as well. Rich Gannon. Remember Rich Gannon? With Rich Gannon, there was really nothing to drool over as a quarterback, right? He didn't have the arm strength of a John Elway. He didn't have the pocket presence of a Joe Montana. And in Kansas City, he was a backup. That's what he was. The Chiefs had Elvis Gerbach, who Marty Schottenheimer called the future of their franchise. And even though Rich Gannon at times would come in and play well, it was never going to be his job because the plan was Gerbach. And these franchises, when they get it in their mind, these coaches, when they get in their mind, this is what we're going to do, it's very hard to dissuade them of that. And I think Scott Wedgwood's career has followed a similar arc here because in New Jersey, he was behind Corey Schneider. In Dallas, he was behind Jake Ottinger. He was never getting over on those guys. Right? The organizations had too much invested, had too high hopes for those players. They weren't going to allow themselves to entertain the possibility that their best goaltender might be Scott Wedgwood. And I'm not saying that there were a ton of times when Scott Wedgwood was in Dallas or New Jersey where he looked that way. But you just knew he was never going to get that opportunity. He was there to be a true backup, right? Mop-up duty when a game goes off the rails, a spot start just to get the starter a night off. That's not a role that allows guys to show their full potential. right? Whatever potential they have, it's a tough spot to be able to showcase that. And you're coming into situations that aren't conducive to success. And let's not forget that Scott Wedgwood has not been on a ton of winning teams before now. Like a season here and there, but generally not playing for winning teams. So and essentially what it was, like Gannon in Kansas City, Scott Wedgwood was ultimately defined by not by what he was, but what he wasn't. Yeah, he's not a franchise guy. So we're not going to give him an opportunity to show that he's a franchise guy. His skills are somewhat limited. We're going to put him in the backup role. Well, then same thing with Kansas City. And then Rich Gannon goes to Oakland. And John Gruden says, not only do I think that you're better than maybe people think you are, what you are right now, I actually love it. It actually works perfectly with what I'm trying to do with my personnel. Remember, he had Jerry Rice and Tim Brown, not burners down the field, but elite route runners that could get open quickly. And John Gruden wanted a quarterback that made quick decisions with the football and had a quick release. And Rich Gannon did have that. He didn't have the Mahomes Elway downfield throwing ability. But he meshed so well with the personnel and the system that the Raiders had, in addition to the Raiders having a good defense and a very good running game. Rich Gannon was in Oakland, the perfect scenario for him that played to all of his strengths and minimized all of his weaknesses. Now look at Colorado and Scott Wedgwood. The Avalanche don't look at Wedgwood and say, hey, we need you to be Dominic Hasek or Patrick Waugh. I mean, the same logic that was applied to Philip Grubauer and Darcy Kemper and Alexander Georgiev, it still applies, right? This team, the core of this team especially, is intact from when they won a Stanley Cup. They're not asking Scott Wedgwood to bail them out every night. They're not asking Scott Wedgwood to make 40 saves a game. He had to make 11 last night. I've said we don't need what you aren't. We need what you are. And we're going to put the personnel around you that can allow you to be successful. I mean, he has a team that's really strong down the middle of the ice, forwards that are willing to check. He has maybe the best pure defensive defenseman in the league in Devon Taves. And the Avalanche keep everything wide, right? The pucks are easy for him to see, and it plays to Scott Wedgwood's strengths, which is one of his strengths is rebound control. He does a very good job, and Mackenzie Blackwood hasn't done as good of a job with this of late. Just get the puck into a good area, right? Don't leave it sitting there on the doorstep. You make the initial save, kick it into an area that we can get to it, and the Avs can start on the rush the other way. It fits perfectly what Scott Wedgwood does. So when you build an environment that plays to a player's strengths, they can kind of surprise you, and you could be looking at someone and go, I didn't think that this guy was this. And I watched Rich Gannon in Kansas City. And I didn't think he was an MVP. But that's exactly what he turned out to be in 2002. Same with Scott Wedgwood. I thought he could be solid for the Avs. The guy's leading the league in goals allowed average and save percentage. And I know he's not in the net as much as some of these other goalies, but I mean, he qualifies. Scott Wedgwood being in that conversation. Who cares if he was in the top 5? It would be remarkable. And he's leading both categories. I mean, could this guy get a Vezina Trophy finalist spot? I wouldn't give him the trophy. There are other guys that play more and, their teams lean on them more. But could Scott Wedgwood essentially be viewed as one of the top 3 goaltenders in the league this year? I think he's got an outside shot of it. And when you put guys like this in an environment that plays to their strengths and not their weaknesses and accepts who they are, who they're not, they can kind of surprise you, not just what you're able to do over the course of the season, but even on a night-to-night basis, right? Rich Gannon's mobility, which was viewed as kind of a negative in Kansas City, was embraced by the Raiders, and he ran for he had a bunch of yards rushing and rushing touchdowns. Scott Wedgwood, he doesn't have to make a ton of saves, but he makes some incredible A+ saves. Not over and over and over again, but when the Avs need him to, he's been able to kind of bail them out. But it's not just the structure. It's not just the personnel. More than anything, or at least where it starts, it's acceptance and belief. Rich Gannon did not change who he was as a quarterback. Scott Wedgwood is not an entirely different goaltender than he was in Nashville or Dallas or New Jersey or Arizona. It's the organizations that changed, that brought out the best in these two guys. The Avalanche are comfortable with who Scott Wedgwood is and comfortable with who he's not. They're fine with it. Make the saves you're supposed to make, maybe steal 1 or 2 a game, and we'll do the rest. Scott Wedgwood didn't suddenly become a great goalie. I don't believe that, not at his age. I think Colorado just stopped asking him. They put him in the right role, which is you're going to be in tandem with Mackenzie Blackwood and you're going to play with the most talented team in the National Hockey League. And you see the results. And to Scott Wedgwood's credit, he's been the better of the 2 goalies. Because you could say that the Avs had the same vision for Mackenzie Blackwood. Not everybody thrives in it. And certainly Mackenzie Blackwood isn't right now. And it's a perfect time to look at this because the Avs played the same opponent back-to-back games. Blackwood got 1 start. Wedgwood got the other. Who do you think looked better? Even remove the final score. Just look at how they performed. So it's not to say it's not a remarkable story. It is. But it's the same conversation that we kind of have, around this time of year with the NFL draft. Is Fernando Mendoza not capable of being a franchise quarterback? Or are the Raiders incapable of creating an environment where he can thrive? Right? The idea that organizations bust as much as quarterbacks do. It's the same logic here. But he was really, and not a lot of saves, but he made a couple of big saves, played well. Avs played great in front of him. And that has to be part of this too. And I mentioned this the other day. You have to, if you're Jared Bednar, take into account the fact that the team seems to respond better when Scott Wedgwood is in goal. That matters too. I mean, Scott Wedgwood's going to be the starter game 1 against LA, Winnipeg, Nashville, St. Louis, whoever it might be. And then they go from there. What we need to see, and this is the same conversation I feel like we've been having for 3 or 4 years now. Darcy Kemper was obviously the poster child for this, is can he do what he has been asked to do for, didn't play all 82 games, but his share of the 82 games? Can you do that for 16 more? On the biggest stage, can you do that? There's still that question with Scott Wedgwood. But I feel like the way he's played, even a slight regression would be good enough for the Colorado Avalanche. But Avs get it done last night at long last, at least clinching the Central Division, which I think is the more important thing. Yes, you would like a Game 7 in the Stanley Cup Final at home potentially, but given everything that's going on in the Western Conference right now, it was imperative that the Avalanche at least got this order of business done, and then we'll see, as I think it would take quite the collapse for Carolina to pass Colorado for the President's Trophy, and we'll have that whole conversation when the time comes. But for now, the Avs, Central Division champion Scott Wedgwood, continues to be outstanding. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on it. Drive Time Sports on 740 KVOR and Extra Sports 1300. Tax day is almost here, but don't stress. Enter the Uncle Sam's giveaway for a chance to win $5,000 to bail you out. All you need to do to enter is head to extrasports1300.com or kvor.com to enter this national contest for your chance to win $5,000 with the Uncle Sam's giveaway, sponsored locally by Kruger Brothers Construction. Plan now. Build stress free. We got do we have a fracas going on here at Coors Field? Ray, what's going on here? Did Goodman get hit too?
I honestly didn't notice it. I had to do something.
So the Rockies right now are up 7-1 in the 6th inning, closing in on a sweep of the Houston Astros as the Rockies bullpen door closes. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
So the Houston pitcher just plunked Tyler Freeman, and then the very next batter hit Hunter Goodman, and that got the Rockies a little bit upset, and you can understand why back-to-back. Well, now he just threw one way outside. This dude just has no control. This Roa guy who pitched in last night's game, that's what it is. He's not trying to intentionally hit anyone. He just can't get the ball over the plate. Oh, I guess it was 2 batters. So Freeman got hit, then Moniak got on base, and then Goodman got hit. So TJ Rumfield is up with nobody out, bases loaded in the bottom of the 6th, and the Colorado Rockies, your Colorado Rockies, are up 7-1. Last night, some superlatives from their win over the Houston Astros. It is their first series win over the Astros, omitting just a little quick 2-game series, since 2012, when the Astros were in the National League. Okay. It's their first winning streak of at least 3 games since August. And they did not win their 5th game of the season, which they won last night. Rockies score, by the way, on a sac fly. It's now 8-1. They didn't win their 5th game of the season until April 30th of last year. And they did not win their 2nd series of the season, which they clinched last night, until June. Until mid-June. I know it's not going to last forever. It may not even last that long. But man, it's been a fun ride at the beginning of this season. At least, you know what we're at least back to with the Colorado Rockies? We're at least back to, remember the Rockies, it felt like they got off to a fast start almost every year. I remember the year where Clint Barmes homered off of Trevor Hoffman on opening day. I think the Rockies were like 13-3 to start that season. And then Clint Barmes had the infamous, he supposedly he slipped on deer meat or slipped on the stairs carrying deer meat at Todd Helton's house. And then it was actually, I think he went 4-wheeling and broke his collarbone, and then that season went off the rail. At least we're back to maybe the Rockies are going to be worth watching in April. And then it will all come crashing down. But given what that franchise has been through as recently as last year, won't you take an April? Won't you take one of those Aprils? I'm not ready to say this is, and I said this yesterday, they might be the most improved team in the league this year, only because they were so dreadful last year, right? They set the bar so low that, you know, you look at these other teams, how many more games could they possibly win, right? The Rockies have a lot of room. They could add 20 games and still be a bad baseball team. So when I said most improved, I just mean in terms of one win total from one year to the next. But I also said that this team is going to remind you at times just how bad they were last year and how bad they've been in recent years. And we got a little bit of that on opening day when Michael Lorenzen, who, by the way, started this game and only gave up 1 run in 6 innings, when he gave up 7 in 1 inning against the Phillies. You're going to be reminded of that. But Warren Schaefer, Rockies manager, here to tell you that maybe you shouldn't be thinking about last year because his team isn't.
First and foremost, a much better team with much better players, with, just moving forward in every aspect of our game. And I think if you're watching the games, I think you can see that in Miami and you can see it in Toronto with some wins in Toronto. So I just look forward. If I were them, I would look forward to better Rockies baseball moving forward on a consistent basis.
It's bold. It's bold given where this organization has been recently. And when I heard him say that, and then he went on to talk about how last year isn't even a conversation. And it can't be, right? You could be like, hey, remember when you guys were like flirting with the worst record in the history of baseball? Wasn't that fun? Like, I get why, as a team, they don't want to talk about it. But it felt like a quiet offseason for the Rockies. Like, not a ton of movement. They only have 10 players back on the opening day roster this year than they had last year. Only 10 guys. Now, you could throw in a Zach Veen. You can throw in a Chris Bryant, who aren't available right now. So maybe the number gets up to 12. But in many ways, this is not the same team personnel-wise. So there's a little validity to what Warren Schaefer is saying. And even last night was a great example of this. They're not even employing the players from one year to the next the same. Last night, Antonio Senzatella earned his first save of his career. The guy has thrown over, I think it was 180 games. Antonio Senzatella pitched. Never a save until last night. Warren Schaefer is not even using the players that the same way. So there is a lot different with this team. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to lead to a wildly different result than it did last year. But he's not lying. Right? It's different ideas, different ways to use guys, different, mentality, especially in terms of how they run the bases. It is a different Rockies team. Ultimately, can't say that I believe that the results will be wildly different. We will still classify the Rockies perhaps as one of the worst teams in baseball. But again, I go back to Troy Johnston's comments from the other night. Like this, he said this city, obviously, but it applies to the whole state. A lot of people that are just looking for a reason to go to the Rockies game. Last night, the Rockies had their lowest crowd, smallest crowd that they have had in a non-pandemic season. A little over 16,000. Unthinkable numbers at 20th and Blake. So the idea that has also changed. The idea that everyone's still going, even though the Rockies are bad, and thus, what's the word? Not emboldening, but they're basically making it so the organization doesn't think they have to make enabling. That's the word I'm looking for. Right? That was always the conversation. Well, if Coors Field is full, that's enabling Dick Monfort to make no changes. Well, Coors Field's not full. Now, in the summer months and on Star Wars night and the 4th of July, Rocky's probably going to have a full house. But the crowd they had last night is not even a crowd that they normally have. So that idea is kind of a little bit gone out the window. Like the market is speaking, and maybe it's part of the reason why Dick Monfort, albeit handing it over to his son, did step aside. You know, progress is slow sometimes, but no, I'll keep saying this. I'm in. I'm in, and I'll report back to you. If you're not, I'll let you know. And then you can find out, you can decide at what point you want to jump in here. Rockies closing in on a sweep of the Houston Astros 8-1 at the end of 6. 719-24-7, 1313. By the way, our question of the day is quite simple. Rockies, yes or no? That's the question. We just want your answer. Rockies, yes or no? 719-24-7, 1313. I think we really need the NBA playoffs to get going. We just keep the same storylines continue to permeate throughout the league, and then not all of them are positive. I truly believe when the playoffs roll around, the playoffs are going to be tremendous. There are going to be great matchups. Nuggets, Spurs, Nuggets, Thunder. Maybe both. Not necessarily. I'm just saying potentially those are a couple of matchups, and those will be phenomenal. I think there are great stories like the Charlotte Hornets that I don't think are a title contender, but could they, make some noise in the East at least? I think the playoffs are going to be really good. But right now, the NBA is continuing to kind of fight this negative cycle. And a couple of things that are part of that have come up in the last 24 hours. One is the 65-game rule and one is tanking. Let me start with the 65-game rule. So I am a proponent of this. And I am a rule is the rule. If you don't like the rule, change the rule. But there's also another reality, which is if you create exceptions to the rule, then it's more of a reason to not change the rule because you already grant exceptions. And maybe just stick with those. What I mean is Cade Cunningham returns tonight for the Detroit Pistons. He will not be able to play enough games to get to the 65 games he needs to be eligible for All NBA, which for a guy at this stage of his career is basically costing him millions and millions of dollars. Which may be the part of this rule that is, tinkered with this offseason because there are guys that are losing out on a ton of money. But there is an extraordinary circumstance exception that the NBA has put in, and it's come into focus with Luka most of all because Luka Doncic missed 2 games for the birth of his child. And if he got those 2 games back or they didn't count against him, or if he was a bad father and did not attend the birth of his child, Luka would still be eligible for postseason awards. And Bill Duffy, his agent, is going to challenge this and is going to try and get him exempt from the 65-game rule. And I, for one, am a proponent of that. I think that if that's the 2 games we're talking about here, I think that Luka should be given those 2 games back. Not necessarily for the injury, but for the birth of his child. So I hope Luka is eligible for postseason awards. With Cade Cunningham, I know his is an injury, but couldn't you argue that a collapsed lung is an extraordinary circumstance? And I get it. You start going down a slippery slope, but I still have some faith in humanity. Can we look at it on a case-by-case basis and be able to say, this warrants the exception, this doesn't? I mean, this is not the judicial system. This is not, sending the Artemis further than any rocket has ever flown with people in it. Like, it's not rocket science. It's not the law. It's sports. Can we look at each individual case and be able to say this is extraordinary circumstance, this is not? I think we can. And I think Luka and Cade, for different reasons, I think you can look at a season-ending injury and say that's an extraordinary injury. And by the way, the fact that Cade Cunningham is coming back, I think strengthens his case. Right? He's showing the NBA, if a dude didn't land on me and break my lung, I would have been playing this whole time. And as soon as I was medically cleared, I came back and played. This is not load management. The intent of the 65-game rule is for load management. Cade Cunningham is not being load managed this year. I don't even think Luka has been really load managed this year, because the Lakers would be, if you've seen the way they've played lately, they would be in a much worse spot if they load managed Luka all year. I think these two guys should be eligible. And they would both, I think, earn all NBA first team, which would be to the detriment, I think, of a Jamal Murray, who is, as we talked about the last week, kind of one of those next men up to maybe get bumped up to all NBA first team. But you got to be fair here. Cade was an MVP candidate until his lung broke. I think this is actually fine. Now, the thing that causes the 65-game rule, why it's in place, is not fine. Load management is an issue. But if you're going after load management and trying to address it, I think this is a good rule, and you built in exceptions. So use the rule on the books and then grant the exceptions when it's warranted. And with Cade Cunningham and Luka, it is. I have not seen another, and people do this, right? You give a mouse a cookie, want a glass of milk. You give an inch, they take a mile, that kind of a thing. And I understand that mentality, and that certainly holds up in a lot of areas of our lives. I don't think it has to be this. Because I heard somebody say, well, Anthony Edwards should apply. Yeah, he should apply. Tell me what is extraordinary about Anthony Edwards missing the 65-game threshold. What happened? Was he at the birth of his child? We're not doing that joke. Go to Twitter for that. But did he go to a birth of a child? Did he have a death in the family? Did he collapse a lung or, something that would warrant this? Not that I've seen. So sorry, Anthony Edwards. You don't get it. You don't get the exception. I think it's possible, even for a commissioner that I am as down on as I have ever been with Adam Silver. I think he and his brain trust can use their collective brain power to see that Cade Cunningham and Luka should be exceptions to the rule. But we'll see once the season is over whether that will be the case. Now, if San Antonio sits Wemby for every game from here on out, Wemby should not be eligible. Just trying to look around the corner at maybe the next conversation we're going to have as Wemby is going to be out. I think the Spurs play tonight, and he's out. And then you're down to two, one of which is against the Denver Nuggets. So that's where I'm at with the 65-game rule. You got exceptions. Use the exceptions for people who deserve it. Cade Cunningham and Luka do. Now, here's the one that's gotten a little messy, as if the 65-game rule hasn't gotten messy. So last night, the Sacramento Kings committed an intentional foul on Seth Curry at midcourt when they were leading by one, which raised some eyebrows. And in the social media age, just that part is clipped and all context goes out the window. So it appeared, and Draymond Green, who played in the game, thought that the Kings were intentionally fouling to give the Warriors free throws so they could take the lead. And the Warriors would, Seth Curry made one of the two to tie the game, but the Kings would eventually lose the game. Draymond Green accused the Kings of blatantly tanking, which would be a level of tanking like Utah Jazz style, maybe even beyond it. If you are intentionally fouling to allow the other team to beat you, to take the lead, that is a new level of tanking and needs to be addressed swiftly by Adam Silver in the front office. However, the scant few that watched the game last night, and why would you watch the game? There's some sickos out there watching the Warriors and the Kings in April. But people who watched the game are saying, no. They had a use it or lose it timeout that was going to be lost if the clock ticked under 3 minutes. It was a clock preserving strategy. Low clunky, but that's what it was about. Kings then called their timeout. Seth Curry made one of two, and Doug McDermott, who coincidentally committed the foul, went to the other end of the floor and hit a three. So even though the Kings ended up losing that game, some people who watched the whole sequence in context are saying, no. They're not tanking. This was what it was. And Shams Charania of ESPN is reporting that the NBA is going to delve into this. I did not watch the game. So I'm a sicko, but not in that. I'm not watching the Kings and the Warriors at this stage of the season. I'm sorry. Love you, Neek, but I'm not doing it. So I can't sit here and say that I know for a fact what happened. That clip looks awful. Absolutely awful. And there's a reason why it went viral. But there are reasonable, intelligent basketball people who are on social media saying, no, that this is what this was about. The bottom line is the NBA needs to look into it. And if it's determined that the Kings were just a little bit clunky about wanting to use a timeout, then okay, come out and say that and explain it. But if it's found out that that's not the reason, and what Draymond Green went to the podium in the postgame press conference saying is true, then the Jazz are going to get a slap. The Jazz would get a slap on the wrist compared to what the Sacramento Kings are about to get. And the Jazz were fined $500,000. So the NBA needs to investigate this. And I understand where people's default position is. I totally get it. And I saw the video. Ray saw the video. And we both thought it was exactly what Draymond Green thought it was. But again, the collective brain power of the NBA, it exists. Use it and figure out what this is and shout it from the mountaintops if Sacramento wasn't tanking. And by the way, some Sacramento fans, however scant few there are left, said the Kings are 9-12 over the last 21 games. That's not a record of a team that's tanking. That's a record of a very, allow me to put it this way. That's not a team that is actively tanking games. That is the sign of a team that's tanking the season. And that's the tanking I'm okay with. Right? Again, there's gray area. I'm okay with organizations gutting their roster, stripping it down to its bare bones with the team that's just can't compete on a nightly basis in order to set themselves up for a great draft pick. I have no problem with that. But if that's the team you're putting together, then you allow that coach to go out and try to win as many games as he can. That, to me, that's the agreement here. You want to tank your roster and put out a G League roster for the season, go right ahead. But you let that coach the team the way he sees fit, and you let those players play as hard as they can. The Sacramento Kings are tanking this season. Doug Christie and those players on the court are not tanking these games. They're just not a good basketball team. So we'll see what the NBA comes up with on all of that. But that's the main reason. The NBA is, I know the NBA will never shorten their schedule, but man, 82 games is too long for them this year. It's been rough. The competitive balance of it all has been quite rough. And to that end, another report from ESPN saying that they're going to vote this 28th or next 28th, Ray? May? Okay. May 28th. The Board of Governors is going to vote on which revolutionary way to curb tanking they're going to go with. And the leading one is basically, not to bore you with the details, play-in teams are in the lottery too. Essentially what it is. You still get a higher chance of getting the number one pick if you miss the play-in, but the play-in teams are now part of the lottery, which would curtail tanking for a few teams that are stuck in the middle that we don't really care about. So are you fixing anything by doing this? I'll answer my own question, not reasonably. Back after this. Welcome in. Appreciate you stopping by. Reminder, you can watch the show wherever you scroll at 740 KVOR, at Extra Sports 1300. And to that end, this is not a platform that you'll be able to watch the show, but we have officially entered the year, 2023? Extra Sports 1300 now is on TikTok. So if you are a TikTok user, you can find clips from this show on there. And just like all the other platforms that we are on, we kindly ask you to like, subscribe, and comment. We got a few TikTok. Maybe we should go to TikTok later, Ray. Can we go to TikTok later? Am I saying it correctly, the TikTok, or should I just say TikTok?
No, TikTok.
Okay.
You sound, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I old.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fair. I don't want to do that. We will go to TikTok later for comments.
Yes.
Regarding some of the videos up there. But in the meantime, you could reach out the traditional way by either calling or texting 719-247-1313. You know, when you have a bad playoff format, and the NHL has the worst, winning your division becomes that much more important. And I'm sure Gary Bettman will stand there and say that that's the reason why he did it. It's all part of the master plan to make division winners more important. I don't want to give him that much credit. The NHL playoff format stinks. Or the seeding format, I should be specific. It is the greatest postseason. Born out of that. That should tell you how good the Stanley Cup playoffs are, is that they are completely seeded incorrectly, and yet we still get the best postseason in all of sport out of it. So the importance of winning the division, especially for the Avalanche, it was there, and they won their first Central Division title in 3 years with that 3-1 win last night over the Blues. And look, let me be clear about what this is all about, and we've been doing this with the Nuggets as well. They're going to have to go through Dallas. Okay, this is not about ducking Dallas. This is not about, anything other than getting the things that you should be given if you win your division. And how badly the NHL has screwed this up and how detrimental it is to a team if you do not win your division. They're going to have to go through Dallas. Dallas is the second best team in the entire league. No offense to Minnesota. I think they're the third best, but I'm taking Dallas. And I think we get Colorado and Dallas in round 2. This is not about ducking Dallas. In fact, I think it would add to a potential Stanley Cup run for the Avs to exercise those demons. Right? Same as the Nuggets with the Thunder. This is not about avoiding the Thunder. The Thunder are, in extremely Thanos voice, inevitable. They're going to have to face them at some point. There's just a better order to do it in, and there's a better stage for it to be on. The Nuggets need to play the Thunder in the Western Conference Finals. The Avalanche don't need to play the Stars in round 1. That's not the way this should work, but it's the way it does work in the NHL. So what recourse do you have? You stay the heck out of that 2-3 matchup, and that's what the Avalanche were able to do last night. The reward is significant because now the Avs are taking on the 8 seed instead of the 3 seed. That's a big difference. But as Jared Bednar will tell you, it's not the be-all, end-all. They haven't won the thing that they're trying to win, but this is an important first step.
Yeah, well, we're not all the way there yet. Goal for us started with winning the division, the conference. Still need another win to get first overall. And like we'd be crazy not to chase that at this point, right? It's important. If you get to where you want to go, you might as well try and get your home ice, especially after a season like this. So it feels great, yeah.
So it's the reward of it and being able to say, like, hey, through an 82-game season, despite any difficulties we had with injuries and anything like that, we were the best. Right? Now, there's another tournament starting up, another season, if you will, starting up, where it's more important that the Avs prove that they're the best. But these are worthy things to go for. And you don't sacrifice everything to get there because there's a bigger picture here. But it's like Jared Bednar said, like, we'd be crazy not to make sure that we get the President's Trophy. But it's the same thing as you do with your roster. And we're seeing this with the Avs right now. You set your best lineup. This is what I think our best lineup is going into the playoffs. It's the same thing with your path. You're not ducking anybody. You're not hoping that, the Wild do your bidding. This team wants the smoke. They want the Dallas Stars. They want to beat them. But they would like to face them later on, which they should. So it's setting up your roster, your lineups, but it's also setting up the best path possible through the postseason. And speaking of setting your best lineup, we finally, no Cale Makar. With the forward group for the first time all season, right? Understanding that they made some moves at the deadline, Jared Bednar had his choice of any forward he wanted that realistically was in line to be one of the 12 forwards he would employ for the playoffs. He had more than 12 healthy forwards, so he chose the 12 best. And I thought it was telling that with all of that, Yoel Kiviranta was the odd man out. Of the names we've been discussing, Yoel Kiviranta was the healthy scratch last night, which it makes sense. Right? This is what depth affords you. You start to look around and we acquired Nick Waugh for a reason, so it's not going to be him. Jack Drury and Parker Kelly are having career seasons, same as Yoel Kiviranta last year. Remember, he was the story out of the bottom six. Well, now Jack Drury and Parker Kelly are having career years. So tough to put Kiviranta over them. Logan O'Connor is an important piece to this team, not just because of what he is on the ice, but what he is in that dressing room. Like, Logan O'Connor is important. So when you start to line everybody up, you go, yeah, I think when you do the math, Yoel Kiviranta is the remainder. But he'll be at the ready and you'll feel decent if he is called upon at some point in the postseason, as long as it's not for somebody higher up in the food chain. If it's the bottom six, I think that you feel decent about it. Not the top six necessarily. So that was telling, I think, as far as where Jared Bednar's head's at. And speaking of the top six, I think the story of last night was Valeri Nichushkin, a guy who is often forgotten on this Avs team. Haven't you noticed that? Not a lot of big Val conversation going on this year. And I think there's a simple reason for it. Valeri Nichushkin, for the last couple of years, and I'll say the regular season because the postseason has been a different story, as you know. Valeri Nichushkin has been the dude on that on that second line. Like the guy. No Gabriel Landeskog. So he's had to do so much on that second line. And now that Landeskog's back, full season of Brock Nelson. Yeah, Valeri Nichushkin is not going to be as prominent as he was before the Avs acquired Brock Nelson and when Gabriel Landeskog was hurt. But is Valeri Nichushkin actually having a worse season? Sometimes, what's that saying? There are lies, damn lies in statistics. You look at his production, it's down. But his effectiveness, I don't think, is a far cry from what it's been. He's still a very good two-way forward. He's just being asked to do different things than he was being asked when Landeskog was out and before they got Brock Nelson. So, yeah, Gabriel Landeskog is eating some of his points. But that doesn't necessarily mean that Valeri Nichushkin, when you look at some of the underlying metrics and watch the games, that he's not an effective hockey player. And by the way, this is all good. This is good news. Right? If Valeri Nichushkin hasn't fallen off a cliff in terms of the level he's playing at, and you have Gabriel Landeskog, and you have Brock Nelson, and now you add Nazem Kadri to the third line. This is all good. The last time the Avs won the Stanley Cup, Valeri Nichushkin and Gabriel Landeskog were both in the lineup. And by the way, Valeri Nichushkin, in that, when he's been on the ice, when he's been available and with the team in the playoffs, he's proven to be a playoff riser. But he gets 2 goals last night, including one that was the top play on SportsCenter. If that, and another thing that I might sound old about, does that have any cachet anymore? Number 1 play on SportsCenter went through his legs to beat Joel Heffler. It was a good game. It was, I understand he hasn't been as noticeable this year. He was very noticeable last night. Now, one last thing on the Avs here. I mentioned they went into the game with all of their forwards healthy. They didn't leave the game with all of their forwards healthy. Nazem Kadri had to leave the game because he injured his finger. Jared Bednar not giving you anything after the game.
Couple days, give me a day or two, and we should know more and sort of figure out what his pain tolerance is. I'm sure it's something that he may or may not be able to play through, but we'll just take it day by day and see how it goes.
Something he may or may not play through. Illuminating. Thank you, Jared Bednar. 5 games left, one of them in Calgary, which I would imagine Nazem Kadri would very much like to play in. We'll see how the Avs play it. And you heard Jared Bednar earlier. They need one more win, and they will lock up everything. So, do we see Nazem Kadri again this regular season? Do we see Cale Makar with the Avs right there on the cusp of clinching everything that is available to them? That remains to be seen. But the longer term thing, how is this going to affect Nazem Kadri? Well, if you're looking for a cosmic sign, the last time the Avalanche won the Stanley Cup, Nazem Kadri was on the roster. And the last time the Avalanche won the Stanley Cup, Nazem Kadri was playing in the playoffs with an injured digit. It was his thumb. Now it's a finger. A different finger, not the thumb. So he's been able to play through these kind of injuries when he needs to. The argument is right now is, does he need to, with the Avs on the cusp of clinching the President's Trophy? 719-247-1313. Get your thoughts on the Avs. Question we threw out yesterday that we may revisit here as we move through the program. It's on our Facebook page. Who do you trust more going into the postseason, the Nuggets or the Avalanche? So put that on your plate as well as we continue here on 740 KVOR and Extra Sports 1300. Nuggets Nation, secure your spot for the postseason with the 2026-27 Nuggets season memberships. You can enjoy priority access to playoff tickets, flexible plans, and exclusive member benefits. Don't miss what's next at Ball Arena. Visit nuggets.com to learn more. Speaking of, tonight, the Denver Nuggets play one of their final 3 games of the regular season as they are in Memphis tonight. Have not seen any videos of any Nuggets on a golf course trashing Memphis and suggesting the Grizzlies should move to Nashville. Good job, LeBron. You make it really hard to defend you sometimes, big guy. But it will be the Memphis Grizzlies that the Denver Nuggets play as they continue to push for the 3 seed. Now, the Memphis Grizzlies, go ahead. If you can name a Grizzly, go ahead now. And you're saying to yourself, well, Ryan, you can't hear who I say. Just trust me, it'll work. Go ahead. Name a Grizzlies player. He's out. Name another one. Oh, he's out. Oh, that guy. And the guy that just popped into your head, he's out too. The Memphis Grizzlies, I don't even know if they have a full basketball team right now. There are so many names on the injury report. I am genuinely fascinated to watch tonight's game just to find out who else is on the Memphis roster, because I don't know if I know a single player that is going to play tonight, which means this is the one the Nuggets have to get. They must get this one. There is no reason that they can't win tonight in Memphis. And they need to win because there's some uncertainty about what challenge that the Thunder and the Spurs are going to present this weekend. Ray, you said the Thunder are in action tonight, yes? No, they were in action last night.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you can call it action, yeah, they were in action last night.
That's true, and I want to get to that in a moment. But you said something about, what was Shea?
Oh, yeah. Is it tonight? Let me just double check. Yeah. So the Oklahoma City Thunder are playing the Clippers tonight.
Yes.
Tonight. And SGA, from what I've seen, is not going to play.
Which means
he'll
play in Denver. Which, by the way, this is what we want. We want Shea to play because right now you have no indication whatsoever that the Denver Nuggets are capable of beating the Oklahoma City Thunder in a 7-game series. And I'm not saying that Friday's game is going to be the be-all, end-all, but what I am saying is it would, I think, fill you with a little bit more confidence if the Denver Nuggets beat the Thunder full strength. Yes, the Thunder may not have much to play for, but if Shea is playing, the Thunder will be intact. That will be the full strength Thunder that the Denver Nuggets will go up against, and it's better than what they've got right now, right? In terms of the results between the two teams. If the Nuggets beat a full strength Thunder team that don't have anything to play for, that is still better than the results they have had previously. And so it's the same deal as with Wemby potentially on Sunday. You want it. You want the best players playing. But given the previous results when Shea has been on the floor for the Thunder, it does make it more difficult for the Denver Nuggets to clinch this 3 seed if potentially Shea plays on Friday and Wemby plays on Sunday. Which makes tonight, again, the one they have to get. You got to at least get this one. And then I think realistically you could split the 2 games and get the 3rd seed. Because the Lakers are toast. They're done. And it's not their fault, but you lost Austin Reeves and Luka. And JJ Redick is just throwing every single Laker remaining on that roster under the bus last night. They are coming apart at the seams. They've really Freaky Friday things with the Rockets, because now just a couple of weeks ago, the Lakers are the team on the come up, the team that, are they a real title contender? Maybe they are. Luka MVP, all of this kind of stuff. Rockets were struggling. Kevin Durant's burner account and Ime Udoka tossing every single player on his roster under the bus. And now, fast forward a couple weeks later, JJ Redick, is like needs a well check, and they don't have, and the Rockets have won 7 in a row. Who says nothing happens right at the end of an NBA season? But as far as the Nuggets go, you got to get this one. And to something Ray alluded to moments ago, the Thunder last night just absolutely demolished the Lakers and sent JJ Redick into a dark place in the postgame. And he's saying DeAndre can't catch the ball, and it's bad. That's what playing a champion does, right? A champion looks at a game against an undermanned Lakers team and says, tonight is not a night for us to coast. Tonight is a night for us to make an example out of these people. Last night was a statement game. And look, it wouldn't have gone that way had Luka and Austin Reeves played. I fully acknowledge that. But that was Oklahoma City, and they've done this quite a bit this season. The time that Shea was out early on in the season. They have licked their chops at playing a bad team or an undermanned team, and they just destroy them. That, to me, is a championship mindset. That's what great teams do. They don't look at it as a night where they can give less than their all. So as much as, I don't want to give the Thunder any level of praise because they're so bleh. I got to give them credit. They have that killer instinct. And it's a killer instinct that I really wish you would see more out of this year's Denver Nuggets team. Because you had the Portland game the other night, which turned out okay, which you did see some of a championship level Nuggets team in that fourth quarter. But you wondered, did it have to come to this? Tonight can be one of these two games. They only have Peyton Watson and Spencer Jones out. And all the, the worry about Aaron Gordon, how healthy is he going to be and everything. You got to protect him. Here's the best load management. You're playing a Grizzlies team that is sitting almost everyone. They have the bare minimum amount of players to be able to actually play an NBA game. And you are a Nuggets team that is a couple of wins away here from clinching the 3 seed and setting up a better path through the postseason. You need to put this team away. This is not the other team are professionals too. The team that the Grizzlies are going to throw out are barely professional. And I'm not trying to, pile on them, but these are guys at the end of the Grizzly bench that never get to play because the Grizzlies are tanking. They're putting out this G League level roster. They're pros too, but they're a very different level of pro. Let's see some of what Oklahoma City Thunder showed last night against LA. Let's see some of it from the Nuggets tonight. And if you do that from the jump, guess what? You don't have to play Aaron Gordon 35 minutes. And here's the other thing, too. I looked this up because I was curious. Do you know that Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray are not only playing fewer minutes right now, they're playing more than they were 2 years ago when we all accused Michael Malone of burning this team out. They are playing, let me repeat that, more minutes right now over the last 10 games than they played the final 10 games of the season 2 years ago. David Adelman is not throttling back Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. Now, Aaron Gordon has played fewer minutes, which in the present is the most important thing, but it's just something to file away for when the playoffs roll around. David Adelman is using these guys as much, if not more so, on a per-game basis as Michael Malone did. And if he's going to do that, if he's going to put the pedal to the metal, fine, but the team needs to execute so then David Adelman can, to stick with the car metaphors, throttle it back as the game goes on and give Strother and Hardaway and Valanciunas and these guys some more run here. So this is a game. It has consequence to it because the Nuggets are still pushing for that 3 seed. They're a game up. Lakers play tomorrow, or game and a half. Game up. Nuggets win tonight. They'd be a game and a half. Lakers lose tomorrow at Golden State. They'd be 2 games up with 2 games left to play. But also, it's just you only have a couple more games here to kind of make an impression or continue to make an impression. This would be a good night to kind of answer what Oklahoma City did and say, yeah, we could do that too against a team that's not in our weight class. So Nuggets, Memphis tonight, 7:00, Extra Sports 1300. And then 2 games, one against the Thunder, one against the Spurs. Do we see Shea? Do we see Wemby? And what's on the line for the Nuggets in those 2 games? We will have a little bit more clarity after the next couple of days. 719-24/7, 1313, more Drive Time Sports after this. season, and I think that matters, but it may not mean more than the impact that Victor Wembanyama makes on the Spurs, or even the impact Luka made on the Lakers until he got hurt.
That's, again, I always say this, the MVP, everybody takes valuable out of that, because if you look at what Wemby did, he brought a team that hadn't made a playoff since 2019 to the second seed. You have Luka, who without him, there may be a play-in team. And then you have Jokic, which without him, maybe top, I would say top 6, yeah. But you take SJ off Thunder, I still think they're top 2. They are a deep team, and that's a credit to them.
Well, that's the ultimate question. I don't think that OKC is a top 2 seed. If everything else stays the same, maybe, because they have such a big lead, right, over the Denver Nuggets for the 3 seed. But in a world where the Nuggets are healthy all season, that Thunder team is not, like, just look at it. Thunder without SGA, you wouldn't say they're better than Denver. You wouldn't say they're better than San Antonio. And would you say that they would be better than Houston or Minnesota?
So, okay, the OKC without SGA this year, 8-4.
8-4.
And you also have to remember I don't know how many games he didn't play a fourth quarter.
Right. So you win twice the number of games as you lose. That puts you about, math is not my strong suit, but are we talking about a 55 win team? But that's also, but you also have to look at who they played over that time.
Okay.
Because if they have to play without SGA for a full season, that's every game against the Spurs, every game against the Nuggets, every game against the Celtics, and you start going down the list. And I don't know that this team can't be between 55 and 60 wins without SGA.
Right. Okay.
There's no way.
I guess, so I'm looking at it. Chicago, Detroit, they lost.
Okay.
Toronto, they won. Cleveland, they won. Brooklyn, they won. Milwaukee, they lost. Phoenix, they won. Lakers, they won. Houston, San Antonio, lost. And then the next loss. Okay, this is mixed. But yeah.
There's a lot of.
It's like when in the beginning of the year when they went on that run, right? When they went on that crazy run, everybody was like, they're going to be the best record.
Right. We were talking about the Warriors, right?
Yeah,
we
were talking about the Warriors.
KD.
And I kept saying, I'm like, but look who they're playing. They're not playing these strong teams. And once they started to lose. Obviously, they're number 1 seed. But anyways, I just feel...
So you're right about that, but wrong about
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, I just feel that the fact that people aren't even looking at Jokic. He had that game against Wemby, and they're just like, oh, yeah, he's
that's wrong.
Great.
I'm saying I agree with you there. Like this is legitimately, and with Cade, if Cade gets your all NBA team, all have legitimate MVP cases, right? Shea, Wemby, Luka, Jokic, and Jaylen Brown, right?
Shea,
and then Cade.
Yeah.
So even outside, like you have 6 guys that have put together MVP cases. I'm 100% with you on that. And I think ultimately, I saw Michael Pena from the Ringer, right? That was who you told me had Jokic as his MVP. I think the not paying attention to what Nikola Jokic has been doing lately is going to ultimately cost him. I would be fascinated to see in an alternate universe, if they truly looked at the MVP conversation with the depth that it should have been looked at, instead of just this 2-horse race, which I get it, television, ESPN, all that kind of stuff, it's easier, but that marginalized everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And the moment Cade got hurt, it was like, he's gone. We're not talking about him anymore. And it became Luka and Wemby, and then nobody bothered to check in on Shea because they just were like, well, Shea's my guy anyway.
And then with Luka, no one at first, when the Lakers weren't doing great, they were like, well, Luka's playing well, but too low of a seed. Got to the 3 seed, obviously using the conversation.
Right, and now they're like, oh, wait a minute. Now I have to.
Jokic was 4. Well, he's below Wemby, he's below Luka, and he's below SGA.
Yeah.
Now he's 3. And you don't look at him.
Where do you think he ends up in the voting? You think he ends up 3rd?
Depends on eligibility, but
let's say that. Well, I think that both Cade and Luka have legitimate cases. Let's say that Luka gets his and Cade doesn't. Because that makes it tougher, right? Because Luka, you would put Luka above Jokic if he was eligible, wouldn't you?
No.
You wouldn't.
I wouldn't.
Okay. Would you put Cade above Jokic?
Yeah, just because, again,
Okay, so you'd have one of those two guys.
My take is always like, if one guy, like Jokic does for the Nuggets, if one guy brings a team who wasn't even they were in the playoffs last year, but a low-ranked team to a number 1 seed, like that's got to be held accountable. But like you said,
so you think he's gonna? So they're both out. If Cade is eligible, Luka doesn't matter in your mind. He's finishing above Luka no matter what. Okay, Cade, if he's granted his exceptional circumstance exception,
right?
You would go 3rd. You go Wemby 1, Cade 2, and Jokic 3.
Jokic 3, yeah. Then Jaylen Brown, then Luka, then Steph Curry with a knee, and then no, I'm just kidding. No, but yeah, that's just the way I feel. Like, would you really have Shea 6th on your ballot? That's off your ballot. That's off your ballot. Off my ballot, right? There's just so many candidates. I just think that this is the closest MVP race we've had in a long time.
In terms of depth.
I
promise you the vote's not going to be that close.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
In terms of depth, closest one we've seen in a long time, but yet it's looking like he has a runaway.
That Shea's going to run away with it.
Yeah.
If everybody is, I think Jokic, I would have 4th. I'd have him. I have Wemby 1. I have Luka 2. I have Shea 3, and I have Jokic 4.
And it's hard because what he's doing this season.
And in fairness, I watch every Jokic game, so I'm not one of those ones that ignored him for a long period of time. I just think that it's an extraordinary season in which we have so many other players who.
Well, like you said, it's earlier when we talked about the assists, leading in assist and leading in rebounds.
Oh, that's a great point. I do want to bring that up. So ESPN put out something today that you are well aware of the fact that Nikola Jokic is going to be the first player in NBA history to lead the league in both rebounds and assists in the same season. Nikola Jokic will also become the first player in NBA history to have any season in which he leads the league in rebounds and leads the league in assists. Not even together. No NBA player has ever had a single season where they have led the league in rebounds and then had another season in which they have led the league in assists. Not one basketball player to have ever lived has done that. And it makes that even more remarkable.
Yeah.
The fact that, and speaks to how special and unique Nikola Jokic is, is the fact that no player has ever had a season where they've led the league in rebounds and they've led the league in assists.
Yeah, and then 10 years, we're going to look back at this and be like, yeah, he was actually third.
Are
in
we going to do
MVP.
this? Are we going to do like here's we don't even have to wait 10 years. Are we going to have a similar conversation? And I didn't have this conversation because I said Joel Embiid was deserving of the MVP. I did not, do what, and my motivation was not listening to Kendrick Perkins and all that kind of stuff. But the larger discourse was Jokic lost the MVP to Joel Embiid because of voter fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
And that very year, Nikola Jokic went on to lay waste to the Western Conference and to the Miami Heat. And immediately people raised their hands and went, my bad.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have done it. Which they shouldn't even do because it's a regular season award, but it just speaks to how shaky some of these voters are. Are we going to have that conversation after the NBA finals are over? Are we going to have a conversation where Nikola Jokic is largely overlooked for the MVP or does not finish high enough or whatever it turns out being. And then he goes and basically takes what he's doing now and does it for an entire postseason run. Are we going to have voters say, I was a little lazy in this. I was a little lazy and did not vote Nikola Jokic for one reason or another. Are we going to have that conversation again?
No.
You don't think so?
No, just because of the depth. Because that year it was Jokic or Embiid.
Okay.
This year you can't go wrong with any one vote.
And if Jaylen Brown gets to the NBA Finals, then it even though it shouldn't because it's a regular season award, but in a lot of people's minds, it will legitimize them voting for Jaylen Brown that he had such an outstanding playoff run, albeit with Jason Tatum in tow. I could see that.
Yeah. Like I said, it's closer than what everybody makes it out to be.
I 100% agree with you on that. We differ slightly on where we would have Jokic in the pecking order. And then we differ slightly. We get to the same result. We just do it a different way because I will take into account the success of the Oklahoma City Thunder.
I'm changing it. I'm sorry. Because they're the 3 seed now. I'm going Jokic 1, Wemby 2. And
there you go. You heard it here first. Jokic MVP, courtesy of Ray Dominguez. We'll take a break, come back, reset with the 3 stories that are driving the show. Back to the Avs. We'll tell you how the Rockies did today because these moments might be a precious few this season. You're listening to Drive Time Sports on 740 KVOR and Extra Sports 1300. Hello there. Welcome in. Glad to have you. Appreciate you either listening to the show on air, online, or through the streaming apps of both KVOR and Extra Sports 1300, or if you're watching anywhere you scroll, as long as you follow one of those two radio stations. Why not both? If you like to interact with the show, you could drop a comment on our live stream, or you could text or call into the show at 719-247-1313. Perhaps you might have some opinions about the three stories that are driving the show. All right, we start on the ice for story number one.
Nelson for Valnichushkin, short-handed, tried to tuck it in. He does! He scores! What a goal by Valnichushkin, his second of the game. It's the second short-handed goal of the season for the Avalanche. He went in between the legs, around the outside, and he makes you say, wow! What a goal by Valnichushkin, his 17th of the season.
Connor McGahey on the call for Altitude Sports, as heard on Extra Sports 1300. Avs beat the Blues 3-1 and clinch the Central Division for the first time in 3 seasons. And because the NHL has the worst playoff seeding procedure of any sport, maybe the NCAA tournament might be worse. Now, any professional sport, it is a big deal that the Avs clinch the division. Because that is basically the difference between playing the 8th best team in the West in the first round and playing the 3rd best team in the West in the first round. That is a big difference. And you're setting up your lineup. What's our best lineup? Jared Bednar, you saw that last night with the forwards until Nazem Kadri got hurt. Don't panic. Seems like it's not going to be a huge deal, kind of like the Cale Makar thing. They'll probably err on this side of caution, and Kadri will be back for the playoff. But you set up your best lineup, but you also set up your best path. This is not about avoiding Dallas. I fully expect Dallas to beat Minnesota in what I think is going to be a very long series. But it should be this way. It shouldn't even be Dallas and Minnesota playing each other, but the Avs should be waiting for those teams and not having to play them. And so the reward was great for the Avs to win the Central Division, but they're going to have to go through Dallas at some point. They're going to have to exercise those demons. And honestly, if Minnesota beats Dallas, are there not going to be questions? Are there not going to be questions about, okay, Colorado can beat everyone except Dallas, and the reason they won a Stanley Cup was because Dallas was eliminated based on this stupid playoff seeding thing that Gary Bettman does? So I think you want it, but you want it at the best time possible. You want the first round series to be like not the regular season, more intense than that, but also not more as intense as a series with Minnesota or Dallas would be in the first round, and get yourselves ready and kind of build yourselves up to be ready for the test of the Dallas Stars, which is, look, the difference between these two teams essentially has been 1 goal. 3 games decided by a shootout, which to me doesn't count. And the Avs got 1 goal in their last matchup with a Dallas goaltender in net. So that's going to be a long series, but you set your best path up that you possibly can. And in the NHL, because of the way they seed it, it's even a better path if you avoid that 2-3 divisional matchup and get the Central Division. So that's what the Avs did. First box is checked. Next one more win would give them the President's Trophy, which I know comes with some baggage, and we'll get into that once the Avs do indeed clinch. But they want it. Jared Bednar said it last night. They want the best record, not for the shiny hardware, but just it's important to set goals and to be the best team in all the land through 82 games. It's a big deal. So that's next up for the Avs as they have a whole week left in the regular season. Those last couple of games, you might want to cover your eyes. It may be a little ugly, those last couple of games with the Avs, missing some guys and not having anything to play for. But in the meantime, still much to play for, which is the best, highest point total in all the NHL. Here is story number 2.
Into the back, but Hunter's so strong. Did he get it? You bet! Second of the year for Hunter Goodman. Make it 7-1, Colorado.
Rockies TV on the call there. The Rockies, look, last night, the Rockies won won 2 series for a season, right? They won 2 out of 3 in Toronto. They took the first 2 against Houston. It's the first time they have done that in a very long. They didn't do that till June, middle of June of last year. Win 2 series. So if you're a Rockies fan, just that was good. And then today, they finished the job with a 9-1 win over the Houston Astros. And the number you should be focusing on is not the 9, it's the 1. Houston does not have a great pitching staff, but they have a great lineup that had, coming into the series with the Rockies, scored the most runs of any team in baseball. And today, the guy that gave up 7 runs in the first inning on opening day, Michael Lorenzen, gave up 1 in 6 innings of work. The Rockies didn't just sweep the Astros. They put an exclamation point at the end by holding them to a single run while putting up 8. Some of the superlatives from this game. It's their first sweep at Coors Field since May 12th of 2024. They did not sweep a single team at home last year. In 2020, they did not win their first home series, of the year last year until July. They improved to 6-6 on the season. It's the latest in the season they've been 500 since 2022. What world are we living in? I am the LeBron meme. I can't believe this is my life. I am watching the Colorado Rockies winning consistently. Well, not super consistently. They're 6-6, but for the Rockies, this is 2022. 12 games in is the latest they've been 500 or better. This is wild, what we're seeing right now from the Colorado Rockies. And at least it's getting us back to so many years with the Rockies where it was they tease us in April and then fall off a cliff when like June rolls around. And maybe that's what they're heading for. But couldn't I argue that what we have seen albeit through 12 games, is actually progress. It's actually ideas being put in by Paul DePodesta and executed by Warren Schaefer that's actually progressing this organization. And that's what you have to want. Just progress. You know it's not going to completely flip one year to the next. I'm riding the purple wave for as long as I can. This is fun. They're playing fun baseball. It's entertaining. And every night, you remember when Nikola Jokic, it was the not since wilt? Pretty soon we're going to get to the Rockies doing something that they have not done since the pandemic. These are wild factoids that are being thrown out by the Rockies communication department. It's fun. Rockies sweep the Astros onto San Diego for 4. And then they get Houston again. Story number 3. The Denver Nuggets tonight hosting the Memphis Grizzlies. And as they chase the number 3 seed, this is the one they got to get. Right? If you want to kind of avoid some of the symmetry with 2 years ago, right? 2 years ago, they were the seed they were pushing for. They had to win that game against the Spurs team that was sitting guys. And he pushed. They lost that. Then they got bounced by Minnesota. There's some symmetry here. The Nuggets might play Minnesota. And they might face the Spurs team on Sunday that's resting people. Get your work done before. This is a game. You're playing Memphis that has like 9 guys listed as out. Do what the Thunder did last night against an undermanned Lakers team. Just blow them out from the outset. You're at home. You're not on the second night of a back-to-back. What's keeping you from beating Memphis's G League team with everything you have at stake? You're giving them what they want. They want to lose. Leave no doubt. Bury them early. I promise you they won't come back. And then you don't have to leave Murray and Jokic and Gordon on the floor well into the fourth quarter. Because these next 2 games, we don't know what to expect. Could SGA play on Friday? Maybe, maybe not. Could Wemby play on Sunday? Maybe, maybe not. So those games could either be easier or tougher, but you don't know. And also, get your work done early. You got a chance by the weekend, by Friday night, to have the 3 seed locked up. And then you can say, we're resting guys for that finale against San Antonio. For the Nuggets to be able to get this 3 seed, they got to win tonight. I don't see how they recover, in terms of the standings if they lose this game, because Lakers have Phoenix and they have Utah. And do not doubt the will of the Utah Jazz to lose a basketball game. They will do everything in their power to lose basketball games. You don't get this one, it gets a little dicey. And I think that the Nuggets do want the 3 seed. That is tonight, 7 o'clock, Extra Sports, 1300. In the meantime, take your thoughts, 719-24/7-1313. More after this on 740 KVOR and Extra Sports, 1300. No Peyton Watson or Spencer Jones tonight for the Denver Nuggets. Shouldn't make a difference, with all due respect. But just the Nuggets have their own injuries that they are managing here at the end of the season. Again, Nuggets and Memphis tonight at 7 on Extra Sports 1300. So a lot of curiosity surrounding whether we are going to get one more Jokic versus Wemby matchup before the end of the regular season. And I think if you are any red-blooded American basketball fan, or Serbian or French for that matter, you want 7 more games of Jokic and Wemby. So Wembanyama with the rib contusion, it was announced earlier or reported earlier by Shams Charania that he is available as soon as Friday when they play the Mavericks, which got me thinking he's probably going to play against Dallas. Get it out of the way. He's eligible for postseason awards. He sits on Sunday. As much as I may not like it, that's kind of where I thought he was going to go. But this just in from ESPN, the Sunday doubleheader to close out the regular season at 4:00 Mountain, it is the Magic and the Celtics. And at 6:30 Mountain, it is Nuggets, Spurs. The final nationally televised game of the regular season is Nuggets, Spurs. I ask you, producer Ray Dominguez, which of these 2 games does Victor Wembanyama play?
That's a tough one.
Isn't it a finable offense? Because it would be, right? Because you are saying with the rib contusion, and maybe Shams is working on behalf of ESPN. He works for ESPN, so I guess this is not a leap. Shams is saying he's ready as soon as Friday. Which, and look, they were going to play Wemby at some point.
Yeah.
But isn't it, if Wemby plays on Friday and then they sit him on Sunday, the Spurs are on the hook for the player participation policy, because Wemby, if he could play Friday, guess what? He could play Sunday. And it's a nationally televised game, which is what this whole thing is about in the first place, is making sure the stars are playing in prime time to make their TV partners happy.
Another question is, where are the Nuggets at that point?
You didn't answer my question.
Oh, sorry.
Do you? No.
I think he
where
plays.
are the Nuggets at that point?
Well, first,
okay,
let's get
Nuggets
back.
win. No, I'll answer your question. So Nuggets win tonight, I think, maybe in triple overtime, but they win. Then they're a game and a half.
Yep.
Up on the Lakers. Okay. Lakers, I think, lose tomorrow. The Nuggets would still need both games unless the Lakers lose Friday to the Suns, who are in the play-in. How many games are the Suns up on the Clippers? Because that means that game would be in Phoenix, which I think is important.
Sorry, they are, looks like 2 games or a game and a half.
So the Suns might need that game.
Yeah.
But then the Nuggets, so the Nuggets would be under the same thing, wouldn't they?
Okay.
I mean, the Nuggets could get in trouble.
Just got a text. Both guys aren't going to play. Sorry. So
is that Shams? Is Shams texting us?
Shams has a burner from 719.
Check the area. Well, we don't know where Shams is.
No, I'm saying he could have one.
He might not have a burner. That might be his actual number.
Sure. Okay, so this is what I say with Wemby. If he can play, I think Wemby plays. He's a guy, he wants to go with the challenge. He wants to face Jokic because here's the thing. Yes, we are saying we are hoping for Nuggets Spurs in the second round. We don't know what can happen in the first. I know it looks like no matter what, we're going to get Nuggets Spurs. But at the end of the day, if I'm Wemby, I'm thinking this could be possibly my last chance to get revenge for last time.
Revenge. I agree with everything you say. However, load management is not a player thing. I think it's important to note this. So please listen closely. Players generally do not want to be load managed. They want to play. They all have the mentality of a Nikola Jokic. Now, I shouldn't say all. I'm not going to say all. Most players have the mentality of Nikola Jokic. Two problems. One, or three, actually. One problem, not everybody has the same power over an organization that Nikola Jokic does. Two, not everybody stays as healthy as Nikola Jokic does. And I know he missed 3 weeks, but the dude hardly misses any games over the course of his career. And three, some teams, organizations have different ideas. That's the main thing. Tanking, load management, these are organizational decisions. They're not player decisions. So Wemby, yes, Wemby wants to play Friday and he wants to play on Sunday. Will the Spurs let him? That is the question. I don't think that they will, but doesn't that mean the NBA will fine them? Because it's clear load management.
What's the fine?
Well, that's secondary. I'm just saying the NBA would punish San Antonio. That's my point. Yeah, a slap on the wrist, maybe. But would it be worth it to San Antonio? It would be worth it to San Antonio for any number of dollars in a fine to make sure they're protecting Wemby.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if I'm the organization, I'm like, I'll take a little slap on the wrist to ensure that Wemby is healthy for the playoffs.
100%. So, 100%. But I'm just asking the question for those of us who would like to see the season end with Wemby versus Jokic. I'm saying I think that they're not going to play Wemby, and I think that would warrant a fine.
Oh, yeah. Another thing, though, that I think they need to take into consideration is thanks to this play-in tournament, it's not like not the playoffs start right away. They have a week break before they go into the playoffs because of the tournament. So if you go to, you play against the Nuggets, it's another barn burner. And it's like, okay, we still have a week. We don't have to worry about playing on Wednesday.
Exactly. And that should be, in an ideal world, that's the mentality.
Yeah.
But and this is an easy one to the texter's prediction, to what Shams text us. If you're a Nuggets fan and the Nuggets have the 3 seed locked up on Sunday, do you want them to play Nikola Jokic? If your bias is strictly for the Nuggets, because if you're a casual, you want Jokic versus Wemby. That's just it. You do. You don't think that Nuggets fans want the Nuggets to wrap up the 3 seed before Sunday? So the flashbacks from 2 years ago are going to be crazy for people.
Doesn't he have to?
He can miss one more. Look how many. And that was another thing that you saw, is that ESPN did a thing, the top 5, the best players who are ineligible for postseason awards, not because they will fail to reach the 65 games, but because they're not there yet.
Yeah.
And they put Jokic number 1. That's a little misleading. How many games has Nikola Jokic played?
6. He's missed 16.
No, that math is hard. Give me the other math.
63.
He's played 63 games. So he could play tonight, and he could play Friday against OKC and be eligible.
Right, yeah, 65. and then he's
And the
fine to-
Nuggets could potentially wrap up the 3 seed. And here comes Sunday. If you're a Nuggets fan, which you are, Ray Dominguez, do you want
no,
Jokic? So
no. I
there it is.
I know. I don't want it. I don't want anybody playing if we lock up the 3 seed. I want Jalen Pickett starting. I want Zeke Naji starting.
How do you like Valanciunas versus? I don't. My knowledge of the depth of the Spurs is not that good. I don't know who it would be. Luke Cornett. Valanciunas versus Cornett.
Long hair. He was really good. And
Olynyk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Kelly Olynyk.
Yeah.
Jonas Valanciunas versus Kelly Olynyk.
Does Jonas play?
He has to. If Jokic doesn't play, he has to. Look, this is the precarious position. But let's be clear. Wemby wants to play both of these final 2 games. Jokic wants to play both of these final 2 games. The Spurs do not want Wemby to play both of these final 2 games. The Nuggets do not want Nikola Jokic to play the final 2 games. So, but that is a punishable offense under the NBA. It just is.
It is.
You got to live with it, and they're happy to live with it, but I'm just saying it is. I'm just pointing out facts here. So, I don't know how good that doubleheader is going to be.
No, it's
on Sunday.
I understand what their thoughts were. They're like, oh, look what we just got with San Antonio and Denver. Why wouldn't we put that on for the final game of the season? But I don't know if their whole thought process was also, oh, wait, Victor and Jokic might not even play.
I think they just picked potentially the best game on it. And what they're going to hope is that Wemby goes through shoot around and can't go.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're going to hope. And they're going to hope that Nikola Jokic, as he usually does, overrule his head coach and says, I'm playing. That's what they're hoping.
Or they're going to
all they can do is put the game on, but how much leverage do they have? Can they go to Adam Silver and be like, hey, make sure these guys play?
Well, they're going to hope the Lakers win one of the next 2. Because if they win if they win one of the next 2, then the Nuggets have to win the rest.
No, you're right.
They have to.
If they win tomorrow against Golden State, you're right.
So that's
which is a possibility. I guess the Warriors are not good, but they do have Steph back.
They have Steph, but I mean the Suns are okay too. But that's what I think.
No, I get it. So in summation, I want you, Ray, to say go Lakers. I want you to actively root for the Los Angeles Lakers so you can get Wemby versus Jokic.
Now
you're only guaranteeing Jokic in that scenario.
Yeah.
To be honest. So
I did that when they played OKC and I felt dirty.
Last night?
No. When Luka was there and they still got blown out, but I was like, all right, let's go Lakers. And
that was the game where Luka got hurt.
Yeah.
So Laker fans are listening and saying, do not root for the Lakers. Last time you did, Luka got hurt. So, yeah, my guess is just taking everything into account, what I envision the scenario being, that is going to be a big fat nothing burger to close out the regular season in the NBA, because the Spurs will play Wemby tomorrow or Friday, excuse me. The Nuggets will, I think, clinch the 3 seed by then, and we will not get the matchup that we would like to see.
Right.
Although, again, Spurs fan, do you care? Nuggets fan, do you care? We might get 7 games of this.
Right.
And would you sacrifice the 1 for the 7 type of thing? So it's precarious position, but it is the position that we find ourselves in, and how many other games even potentially have the ramifications of or the star matchup even potentially. So even with everything we just said, that might be the most compelling matchup on the docket anyway.
Yeah,
I don't know what else goes on, what other games are on Sunday. We might have a bunch of Memphis, Utah, Washington,
Yeah, they're all pretty bad. There's none that I can be like, oh, they should put that there. Spurs and Nuggets are definitely the most interesting.
Okay. So they did it, hoping against hope. NBA will do its thing. It will punish the two teams if they don't play their stars. But does Jamal Murray now count for that rule because he's an all-star this year, or is it retro? Is it next year that they can be punished if they sit Jamal Murray?
You would think next year because he just became an all-star this year.
I think so. But,
yeah.
I mean, Jonas Valanciunas versus Kelly Olynyk. Don't sleep on it.
Don't sleep on it. It might. And knowing the Nuggets, double overtime.
It will be exactly like the game 2 years ago to close out the regular season, except it won't be Jokic, Murray, Gordon on the floor closing out the season. It will be, Strother, Jalen Pickett, Christian Brown. You have to play. You have stuff to work out.
Christian, you have to play.
Who gets to sit? Who's allowed to sit? Gordon,
Murray,
Jokic.
Jokic.
Is Cam allowed to sit?
Cam's allowed to sit. He's earned it. He's earned his right. Hardaway.
Christian Brown, you can't.
Hardaway's allowed. And
do you bring back Spencer Jones or Payne Watson?
Yeah, if they're good to go, get them that one game.
So Spencer, so the lineup is Valanciunas, Spencer Jones, Peyton Watson, Christian Brown, and Jalen Pickett.
Brucey B.
No, Brucey B, you got to play too.
You got to play too. He hasn't.
Players want to play, though.
Players want to play.
719-24-7, 13-13. Come back and wrap up the show after this. The Denver Nuggets tonight, for those who observe, are 23.5-point favorites. See what I mean? Tonight is the must get, and not just the must get. Wrap this thing up early. The new season of The Boys is out tonight. We're going to lock in for the postseason. Just let's get this one over with early, Nuggets, so we can take care of some other things tonight. 23.5-point favorites. Is it bad that I want to absolutely hammer the Memphis Grizzlies tonight? Plus 23.5. I think I do. But that game coming up at 7 o'clock on Extra Sports 1300. Tomorrow, busy day. The Masters begins. And it kind of snuck up on me. I don't know if it did for you. And I get it. It's the first major, and it's the big event. It's like the Daytona 500, is that they start the season with this thing, and it's like, oh, that was the one event I was going to watch in that sport. But it really snuck up on me. And I think the reason why, with what happened with Tiger, that storyline, the anticipation that maybe he might give it a go, keeps the Masters out of the news cycle. And now we don't have the Rory storyline to fall back on. And those have been two storylines. Will Tiger play and will Rory win? And I just don't know that there's been as much buildup, as much hype, anticipation for the Masters. Now, that's not to say that it's not going to deliver amazing golf over 4 days. Right? Just because I haven't been eagerly awaiting something doesn't mean when it finally gets here that it's not going to be great. I think the Masters has a chance to be great. And maybe in a way, with Scheffler kind of, it's not so obvious to take Scheffler this year. No Rory. Feels like there's a number of players that you could make a case for. It seems like DeChambeau is the most popular one, but I've seen some Lucas Oberg, and that would be great. That would be great to see one of these younger up-and-coming players win the Masters to kind of launch them into stardom. But, yeah, it's here, the Masters, tomorrow. We'll keep an eye on it for you throughout the weekend. What was the other thing? Sources are saying that the whole Kings thing last night with the appearing to intentionally foul Seth Curry when you're up by 1 look like tanking. Sources say it wasn't. It was a mistake, which you may think it's a cop-out, but it is the Sacramento Kings. Is it possible that Doug Christie messed up something coaching, or the Kings messed up something on the court? I actually totally buy it. Ray, do you buy it?
A little bit. I just wondered what the investigation was. Hey, did you guys do that? No. Okay.
Pinky promise?
Yeah,
I could totally see the Kings. The premise is you have option A is the Kings are intentionally trying to lose in the most blatant way we have ever seen.
Yeah.
Since the point, what school was that with the point, North Carolina State, the point shaving scandal back in the day. Anyway, most blatant form of throwing a game. It wouldn't even be tanking. It's throwing a basketball game. And we've ever seen. Or the Kings just really suck at their jobs.
Which one's more believable?
I mean, it could be the second one.
And I think if I'm like, if I'm taking a poll, I'm thinking 80% are taking the second one. Just history alone.
But once you get the context, honestly, if you watch that game or read some of it, it is very plausible. I mean, what Utah did earlier this year is I would never see it. I never thought I would see a team in a game that's up in the air just decide to pull their best players for a fourth quarter. That was so far beyond the pale. And I'm glad that the NBA came down on them. What Sacramento was accused of doing would have been even beyond that. And I think it's less likely that was what actually happened, given what happened with Utah and given the conversation that we're having. It's almost like everyone is paying attention.
That's what I was going to say. They know they're under a microscope right now when it comes to that. So I don't think they'd be that blatant about it.
Yeah, that would be bold, even for the Sacramento Kings.
Yeah.
So, I buy that they just messed up.
So sad, but yeah, I totally buy it.
But what were they? But that's the other thing is what did they mess up? They thought that they wanted to take that, take it or lose it timeout. Like, what is it that they were trying to
what
do?
advantage did that give you?
Let me see. A strategy mistake by Doug Christie. The strategy was just a misstep as Christie wanted to use a timeout before he automatically lost it when the clock ticked below 3 minutes. Sources said Christie miscalculated that the Warriors were in the bonus.
Oh, my.
Oh, man. He forgot they were in the bonus. He thought they had a foul to give.
Oh. That's tough. See, that's a question. Is Christie there next year?
Everybody, keep Kings fans in your thoughts tonight because, come on.
Light the beam.
Light the beam. Next game, we fully accounted for every foul we committed. Light the beam.
Light the beam.
Oh man, that's a tough look. I mean, it's better than purposely losing.
Right.
But
guys, don't worry. I didn't purposely lose. I just forgot. I didn't know how many fouls there were.
It is the craziest thing. And I would say different levels and little apples and oranges. I sit next to the Air Force bench when I call games. Every foul is then told by one of the assistants to the head coach. That's that many on them, and that's now this many on us.
With how many coaches you have on the sideline?
Here's the Office Space thing. What is it you say you do here?
Yeah, exactly.
If you're not keeping track of the fouls, and also, by the way, this is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and each team is its own multi-billion-dollar company. And they have all these fancy lights and scoreboards and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Look at one of them.
Up.
Doug Christie. Oh, man.
I
think they've given him enough. Like, in a world where they fired Michael Malone,
I know.
After 2 weeks, Doug Christie has had an eternity to be the head coach of the Sacramento Kings. This has run its course. That's the nail in the coffin. Sacramento will have a job opening. And that's probably why Michael Malone took the North Carolina job, because one of the jobs that would be open was Sacramento. Was like, I don't want that job.
I don't want to go back.
I know that job's going to be open. I'm not going there.
Right.
So, wow.
Forgot
how many.
As a head coach, I forgot how many fouls we had.
You know what? We need to forgive Chris Webber. All these years later, Chris Webber had less at his disposal to know how many timeouts Michigan had than Doug Christie has at his disposal to know how many team fouls he has. Chris Webber taking the timeout. People killed him for years I think he needs to be let off the hook because Chris Webber did not have as much that he could look at
Right.
as Doug Christie does. Oy, oy, oy. So that's the King's story, and they're sticking to it. Here's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Looking for TRT that actually fits your lifestyle? Then it's time to check out Synergenics and Low T Center. They give you options like testosterone shots, pills, or enclomifene, which helps boost testosterone without affecting fertility. You can get treatment in clinic or have your testosterone shipped straight to your door. And paying for it is flexible too. You could choose self-pay or insurance, whatever works best for you. And starting April 1st, which is famously in the past, so it's going on now, Synergenics is rolling out new treatment options, including PT141, an FDA-approved libido-boosting peptide. Ready to explore treatments that work with your lifestyle and budget? Book your free T-test at fixmylowt.com. That's fixmylowt.com. It has been my pleasure to serve you. Don't forget, Nuggets Grizzles coming up at 7. Talk to you tomorrow.
With other language learning apps, I was just playing games. I wasn't really learning.